afternoon, everyone. This is the case of the people of the state of Colorado versus James Egan Holmes, case number 12 CR 1522. The records reflect that Mr. Holmes is present with his attorneys, Mr. King, Ms. Brady, Ms. Nelson, Ms. Higgs, and Ms. Spengler. And the prosecution is represented again by Mr. Brockler, Mr. Edson, Mr. Orman, Ms. Stitch McGuire, and Ms. Pearson. We're outside the presence of the jury. Are you ready for the jury, Mr. Edson?
Yes, one thing briefly, Judge. On the Hotmail emails, we'll be requesting publication the same way of giving to the jury, but we would request the court put a 15-minute time restraint just because of the hour and such.
Okay.
The court has seen it. I don't think they need more than that time.
Okay. Mr. King, anything from you?
No, sir.
Okay. That's with respect to Exhibit P-TR-347A, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's bring the jury in, please. Yes.
So the court's aware, my intention is to recall Detective Apple and to publish some parts of 423A and 424A. The court had limited Mr. Madonna's testimony on those. I'm going to show some of them to Detective Apple. That is my plan. That's what the nature of his testimony is going to be.
Okay. Please be seated, everyone. The record should reflect that the jury has joined us again. I hope you had a good lunch, folks. Welcome back. All right, call your next witness, please.
Recall Detective Apple, Your Honor.
Detective, do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Please be seated.
Detective-
You testified a couple of times already, but I'll have you state your full name for the record, please.
Okay. Craig John Apple, Appel, CraigJohn.
Mr. Orman, you may proceed.
Thank you. Detective, what I'd like to do is to publish a few pages of a couple of exhibits that have previously been admitted but not published and ask you some questions about them. The first one is Exhibit 423A, which were the screenshots from the Firefox bookmarks that were noted in 423B. So if we could please put up 423A 5. And I think it's just under 423.5. Detective, do you recognize this as a map of any part of the United States?
Yes, I do.
And do you know what date the bookmark for this was?
I believe this was June 24th, 2012.
And are you familiar with what those, markers represent?
Yes, I am.
And what state is this?
This is state of Colorado.
And what do those markers represent?
Those markers are Division of Wildlife shooting ranges we have in the state.
And this would be from the defendant's computer and the bookmarks, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to, and this was something that was introduced when Detective Madonna was testifying?
Yes, he did search on these.
I'd like to show you another one from 423. If we could please put up 423.13. And if we could zoom in on the image there. Yeah, that's good. Actually, if we could get the whole thing in there, I'm sorry. 42313. Just so that we can get the, that's perfect, thank you. Okay, do you know the date that this was accessed, the bookmark?
I believe it was July 2nd, 2012.
And what does it say at the top of this?
How to Make Bombs, Book 1.
Thank you. I want to go to the artifacts that Detective Madonna testified about. Now, do these have a date associated with them?
No, they don't.
Okay, so let's go to a few of those. I just want to ask you about them. If we could have 424, and this is from Exhibit 424A, 42418, please. And if we could zoom in on that, yes, thank you. And this would be, what does it say at the top of that?
Colorado laws regarding auto glass window tinting.
And did we hear testimony in this case about tinted windows?
Yes, we did.
If we could please put up 42425. And so we can, if we can show what the search was for there. Actually, there you go. What's the search for there?
This was a Bing search for firing systems for fireworks.
And now, if we can go to the next page, please, 42426. What does it say at the top of that?
This was the website for remotefiringsystems.com. It's their homepage.
And if we could please put up 42428. And what is, this says YouTube, and everybody probably knows this, but if you could just explain what YouTube is.
YouTube would be, we use it all the time just for self-help, watching videos or watching a video to learn a process or a method or repair something.
Okay, 42431, please. And is that also for remote firing systems?
Yes, that's one of their, I guess their website, their contact information.
Now take a look at that item in there, and I want to show you 42437. Do you see that?
Yes.
And are both of these items, are they similar to any piece of evidence that was collected from the defendant's apartment?
Yes.
What?
The launch control system, the panel that was on the top of the refrigerator.
If we could please put up 42445. And if we go to the search and then the first couple of things. And what's the search here for?
This is a Bing search for launch control transmitter setup.
If we could go to 42450, please. And again, the search in the first couple of items. What is this a search for?
A Bing search for potassium permanganate and gasoline. These were the ingredients found in his apartment.
If we could go to 42453, and again, the search in the first few items. And what does that say?
This is kind of like a general search, Bing search for sound, maximum public. Has to do, if you read on.
I think that's enough, thank you. If we could go to 42459, please. And this is a page from Wikipedia, and I know everybody knows this, but lawyers have to ask questions like this. What is Wikipedia?
Online encyclopedia.
And what is this entry for that he looked up here?
Military tactics.
And if we could go to 42461, another Wikipedia page. What is this one for?
Military strategy.
Couple more for you. 424-104. And what is this?
This would be a YouTube concerning, it's going to be a video of a smoke grenade or a red smoke grenade going off.
424-113. And again, yes, thank you.
Another Bing search on pipe bombs, PVC.
And then the last one I want to show you is 424-114.
This would be another Bing search for black powder.
Thank you. I don't have anything further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Is there any cross-examination, Ms. Spengler?
No.
All right. And the jury does not appear to have any questions. Detective, thank you. Call your next witness, please.
Jeremy Phelps?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm in a penalty of law that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please be seated. You've testified before, but I'll have you state your full name again for the record, please.
Yes, Judge. My name is Jeremy William Phelps, Jeremy William Phelps.
Mr. Edson, you may proceed.
Thank you. Just so we're all, we can all recall, tell us how you're employed.
I'm employed with the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Are you a special agent?
Yes, I am.
Your Honor, can I approach to grab an item of evidence, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Placed before you People's Exhibit 1227. It's already been admitted into evidence. First of all, have you been here through the course of this trial?
I have.
Listened to all the testimony in the trial to date?
Yes, I have.
Do you recall the testimony about the CU emails?
I do.
So the second to last email that's contained in People's Exhibit 1227, can I just have you go over with the jury the response from the defendant and give us the date, please?
The date of the email is June 12th, 2012 at 10:35 p.m. It's an email to the defendant's father, also used previously as Bobo. It says, "Hi," or "Hey, Bobo." Alternate emails you can reach me at are dsherlockb@hotmail.com or dsherlockb@gmail.com. It's your moolah. Do what you want with it, Jimmy.
Thank you. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
I've handed you what's been previously marked but not admitted, People's Exhibit 347. Do you recognize that?
I do.
What is that?
It's the CD containing the Hotmail records.
Were you here during the testimony from the representative from Microsoft and Hotmail pertaining that particular email account, dsherlockb@hotmail.com?
I was.
Subsequent to that testimony, did you have an opportunity to view the emails in People's Exhibit 347?
I have.
At some point after or even during your review of People's Exhibit 347, did you select any emails out of that particular exhibit pertaining this case?
Correct. I pulled out emails deemed relevant to this investigation.
Characterization.
All right. Members of the jury, I'll give you a clarifying instruction. When he says deemed relevant, that's based on what he felt was relevant to this investigation. But you're not bound by that testimony. And so that does not refer to any determinations of legal relevance. Those are determinations that only I make. And his testimony also does not control your determinations of what you believe is relevant to the determinations or to the findings of fact that you will be making, okay? All right, Mr. Edson, you may proceed.
Go ahead, sir.
And those emails ranged from April 2011 to July of 2012.
You also testified about viewing the Gmails from the Gmail account, is that correct?
I did.
Were these emails in the Hotmail account set up differently than Gmail?
They were a lot different in reviewing this record. The Gmails were able to use a viewer and look at them as if they were, most people are familiar with Outlook, and easy to go through. This particular set of records, it's almost in a Excel-type spreadsheet with links on the far right-hand side, which would include related attachments, content, and header information.
Was it able to be part of your work to actually put the Excel portion that may contain a date and a time, for example, on a page right before the actual contents of the emails?
Correct. So with each email, I have the individual information related to that email, the to, from, date, and then any related information, if there's content, pictures, attachments, etc.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness, please?
Yes.
I've handed you what's been previously marked as People's Exhibit 347A. Do you recognize that exhibit?
Yes, these are the emails that I pulled out from the CD.
Okay, what email addresses are those emails specifically related to?
dsherlockb@hotmail.com.
Have you had an opportunity to view People's Exhibit 347A prior to your testimony today?
I have.
Did you have an opportunity to go through each of the emails associated with that exhibit?
I did.
Is that exhibit set up with the header information as the first page followed by the email?
Yes. So you, for just frame of reference, you have a few different sections. You have the folder in which the email was located, a message ID, a from, to, state, which is usually blank, message type, subject, and a date.
Do some of the emails have attachments associated with them?
They do.
Are those reflected in some of these emails as well?
They are.
Your Honor, at this time I would move for admission of People's Exhibit 347A.
Is there any additional objection?
No.
All right, would counsel please approach for a moment? All right, based on my previous ruling, which includes comments at two different junctures in the proceeding, as well as my comments just now, the exhibit is admitted. That's People's Exhibit P-DR-347A. And Mr. Edson, are you asking to publish it?
Yes, this is what I'd like to do, Judge. I'd like to show two specific emails on the screens and then permission to publish the way we've been doing it by handing the copies to the jurors.
All right, you may proceed.
If we could please have 347A, the first page one. And Special Agent, actually, I misspoke. This is not the actual first page of that exhibit, is that correct?
That's correct.
This is further into People's Exhibit 347A, is that correct?
Correct, towards the end.
So what I'd like to do here is, can I have you, I don't necessarily need you to read this exhibit that we have up here, but what I'd like you to do is just put some context to it, but specifically give us a date and a response that starts with, "Hey, Babo."
You have an email from Robert Holmes, the defendant's father, sending an email to the defendant, asking how he's doing, what his plans were for the 4th of July, and then you have a response from the defendant, "Hey, Babo, Colorado has essentially banned all use of fireworks and canceled all fireworks shows due to Colorado Springs wildfires. Not much else going on. Have a happy 4th of July. Jim."
Do you still have People's Exhibit 34A in front of you?
I do.
I neglected to have you do this ahead of time, but can you go ahead and look at the head sheet information and tell us the date that this email was sent by the defendant, please?
Hey, I think you said 34A. Did you mean 347A?
I did, my apologies, 347A.
So on the header information, the date is July 4th, 2012 at 11:28 a.m.
If we could have 347A2, please. Do you recognize this email?
I do.
So I'll let you go ahead and look through the exhibit in front of you and tell us the date and time of this email and have you do the same thing.
So on the header information, this email is July 12th, 2012 at 10:20 p.m.
And give us the context and the response from the defendant, please.
You have another email from the defendant's father asking to visit during the weekend of August 10th through 12th, asking if he's available and if he has anything else planned. The defendant responds by saying, "Hey, Babo, don't have any plans for that weekend, Jimmy."
Thank you. We can take that down. Judge, I would request to publish now to the jury.
All right, members of the jury, we're going to publish this in the same way that we've done with other exhibits. And so we're going to give each of you a copy, and then I'll give you a little time to review it.
Your Honor, may we approach briefly while they're being handed out?
Yes.
Thank you.
Members of the jury, before you start reviewing those, let me give you an instruction. The statements contained in these emails or in this exhibit, this entire exhibit that's being distributed to you right now, that are statements that were allegedly made by someone other than the defendant, have been admitted for a limited purpose. They have been admitted for the limited purpose of placing the defendant's statements in context and making them intelligible. You cannot consider those statements for any other purpose. Does everybody understand that? And everybody's saying yes and nodding their head yes. All right, thank you.
And Judge, I apologize. I'm not going to have any additional questions for Special Agent Phelps. I'm not sure if the defense does, but at least during the reading, if he could be allowed to step off the stand, we would have no objection to that.
All right, Ms. Spengler, do you know if you're going to have any cross-examination?
I don't have any cross-examination.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If the jury has any questions, we'll call you back out. Yes. Yes. Do we have all the copies, Ms. Garlings? Yes. All right, the records reflect that the jury just finished reviewing People's Exhibit P-TR-347A. Mr. Brockler, please call your next witness.
Your Honor, the people call Ashley Mosier, and if the court will permit me a moment to discuss with her what we talked about at the bench.
Yes.
I'm going to turn it all the way.
Good afternoon. Could I have you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm in the penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Ashley Veronica Moser, ASHLEYVERONICAMOSER.
Mr. Brockler, you may proceed with your direct examination.
Thank you. And ma'am, you're a bit soft-spoken to the extent that you can. Thank you so
Okay.
much for doing that.
Yeah.
Would you tell us what you do for a living these days?
I'm not working right now. I was in school, but I took this semester off. So.
Are you going to be going back to school?
Yeah, I go back in the fall.
Okay. What are you studying?
Now I'm studying social work.
Okay. I want to ask you about July the 19th and 20th of 2012. Can you tell us if you went and saw a movie that night at the Century 16 Theater?
Yes, I did.
I'm going to ask you to tell us who you were with, and then we're going to backtrack a little bit and talk about how you got there, okay?
Okay.
Tell us who was with you at the movie that night.
Jameson, Toes, which was my boyfriend at the time, Veronica, my daughter, Kaylin, Jameson's cousin, and Haley, her friend.
All right. How old were you back then?
25.
How old was Veronica?
6.5.
Was Veronica your only child?
Yes.
The other two girls that you named, how are they related to you, or how did they come to be there with you? And let me back up then. Earlier that day, what had brought Veronica together with Haley and Kaylin?
Well, I needed somebody to babysit Veronica for my ultrasound earlier that day.
Why did you need an ultrasound?
Because I had just recently found out that I was pregnant. So we were going for ultrasound and there was no kids allowed back there. So we dropped Veronica off at Kaylin's so that she could babysit.
Did you go to the appointment?
Yes.
Did you get good news?
Yes, I did.
And did you come back to be with Veronica and Kaylin and Haley?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you share that news with them?
Yes.
What ensued? What happened as a result?
I'm sorry.
What did you do after you shared the good news with them? Was it, did you take steps to celebrate?
Yeah. We had stopped at Papa Murphy's to grab a pizza, came back and ate pizza, and we had thought about going into the movies that night, and Kaylin had mentioned that the Batman premiere was that evening, so we decided to go ahead and see that movie.
Was the mood pretty light and excited?
Yeah.
That's late to go see a movie with a little one.
Yeah.
Did you know what kind of movie it was when you talked about it and agreed to it?
No, I did not. uh, sorry.
Okay.
No, I didn't. I thought when Kaylin had said the new Batman movie, I don't know, I remember the Batman movies when I was younger, and I just had assumed that it was going to be like a family movie,
Not as dark
not
and
as
graphic.
dark as and graphic as I thought it was.
Nonetheless, did you guys go a little early
We did, yes.
to get seats?
Yes.
What time do you think you got there?
Probably like 10:15, 10:30.
And who saved seats?
I did.
And when you saved seats, where did everybody else go?
To the arcade.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness with what has been previously marked as People's Exhibit 1146?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. Thank you. Sure. Thank you. Ma'am, I'm handing you what has been marked as People's Exhibit 1146. Do you recognize what that is?
Yes.
Tell us what it is.
The design of the theater.
The theater that you saw the Batman movie in that night?
Yes.
Does it have indications where you and everyone were sitting?
Yes.
And does that still remind you of where everyone sat from way back when?
Yes.
And is that a fair and accurate copy or a fair and accurate representation of what took place that night, at least in the limited fashion that's on there?
Yeah.
What I'd like to do, Your Honor, if I could, is to describe the action. I'd like to have Ms. Mosier come up to the exhibit if I could.
Okay.
And ma'am, I'm going to, this right here, I'll grab that. I will, Jesus. Ma'am, so that we can hear you, I'm going to give you this microphone. Can you hold that and still point to stuff if we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, let me give you that. Now, if you could, if you can reach, can you show us where you were sitting that you recall back on the 19th of July before the movie started?
Yeah, I believe it was in this fourth row right here, like in the middle.
Towards the middle, and I'm
Yeah.
pointing where I think the middle is. Am I close to one of the seats?
Yeah.
All right. Now, from where you were there, and let me ask this. Did you walk into the theater that night?
Yes.
From where I'm pointing, approximately where you were sitting, who was seated to your left?
Jameson was on my left.
Was anyone else to the left of Jameson?
Yeah, but we didn't know who was not with our group.
Yes, and thank you. I should have asked a better question. Who was to the right of you?
Veronica.
Who was to the right of Veronica?
Kaylin.
Who was to the right of Kaylin?
Haley.
And again, these are approximations. I may not be touching the right seats. Is that fair?
Right.
Okay. And they're indicated on that People's Exhibit that we just talked about?
Yes.
All right, after the arcade, all those kids in Jameson come back,
Yes.
and the movie starts. Yes?
Yes.
Do you have concerns that the movie now is not quite the family-friendly flick you thought it might be?
Yeah, during the previews, I kind of figured it was going to be a little more R-rated than I had thought.
What happened while you were watching the movie?
Well, I had all of a sudden during the previews, I heard something explode like to the back left of me.
And forgive me for saying, if you say back left, I'm pointing in a general area. Do you mean back in this area here?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you know what it was or where it came from?
No, I didn't see where it came from, and I didn't know what it was at the time. I just had heard something explode and then a bunch of gas coming out, and I don't know, I assumed it was a stink bomb from when I was like in high school, but I recognized it didn't have this smell. So.
Then what happened?
And then as soon as because I had turned my head, as soon as I heard it explode, and then right when I went to turn my head forward, I saw a flashing light in the sky, which I thought was or not in the sky, in the air, and I thought it was a firework.
Do you know where in the theater the firework thing seemed to come from?
Yeah, it seemed to come from like upper left.
I would give you the pointer, but are you talking about in this area where I'm pointing here or somewhere else? Tell me where.
Well, I guess a little like more towards the middle front, like, yeah.
And you thought you saw something that was fireworks?
That looked like fireworks to me.
Now, before all that happened,
Mhm.
before the movie starts, without going into any words that were spoken,
Mm-hmm.
where was Veronica at first sitting before you moved her?
During the previews, she was sitting on my lap.
Did you move her to that seat that you've indicated?
Yes, I did.
And why?
Just, she was, because I had just found out I was pregnant, and it just kind of hurt my stomach a little, and she was a very tall, bony child, so I had her move to the seat next to me.
Okay. So you hear that thing hit behind you and explode, the gas. You talked about the fireworks thing that you think up here. By the way, at that point, do you have any idea that it's gunfire?
No. I had no idea.
What did you do?
Well, I assumed it was just kids playing pranks. So my first thought was to leave the theater, but I went to stand up to reach for her hand to try to exit.
When you say her hand, you mean Veronica?
Veronica's hand, yeah.
Okay. Did her hand reach back?
No, I couldn't feel it. Like, just it slipped through my hand.
Were you able to stand up?
As soon as I stood up, I just remember getting a hit in my chest. And I remember falling, then landing on top of her.
Do you know what hit you in the chest?
No, I thought it was a firework at the time.
When you fell on top of her, could you feel her moving?
No,
Could you feel her breathing?
no,
Could you get off of her?
no. I tried, but I couldn't move.
Do you hear anything going on around you?
Yeah, I hear the movie still playing and people crying and screaming and yeah,
Were you scared?
yes.
What happened?
Well, the next thing I know is I was getting carried out, which I vaguely remember, out of the theater.
Do you know who carried you out?
No.
Do you know which direction they carried you out?
I mean, I kind of felt like it was down that way and out.
Out the aisle this way, and I'm using my finger,
Yeah.
and down the, as you're facing the screen, the right steps, and out the door that I'm pointing to towards the parking thingy?
Yes.
Did you see your daughter get carried out?
No.
When you got to the hospital, And you know what, ma'am, let's do this. We don't need to talk about this part anymore. You want to go back?
Yeah.
Let me take that.
Mr. Bruckler, is your microphone on? Okay.
Yes, sir. When they took you to the hospital, did you have any surgery?
Yes. I think I had two, one right away. I'm not really sure what the first surgery was when I got to the hospital. But then I did have a second one like a week later, I believe.
After the first surgery,
Uh-huh.
did you know what your physical health was at the time?
I don't believe so, no.
Could you move?
No.
Did any medical people tell you that you'd been shot?
Yes.
Did they tell you, I'm sorry, ma'am, go ahead.
Yeah, I think they had.
Did they tell you how you were shot?
Um,
And I should ask, do you know where you were shot and where the bullet went?
yes.
Tell us.
I have, well, I guess I got shot 3 times, one in my thigh and twice on my back. One went all the way through my chest, and the other one ricocheted off of my shoulder blade and into my spinal cord onto my C7.
Talk about that in just a moment. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Ma'am, I am handing you what has been marked as People's Exhibit 4852, 2041, 4884, and 4880. Would you take a look at those and tell me if you recognize what's in them?
Yes. It's me in the hospital.
If you could do me the favor of looking at the number on the bottom of that,
Mm-hmm.
saying what the number is, and telling us what that is a picture of?
It's 4852. It's a picture of me with a breathing tube.
Can you go to the next one, please, ma'am?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what the number is and what you see.
2041. It's the exit wound through the chest, where the bullet went through.
Thank you. Can we look at the next one, too, please?
4884. You can barely see, but in my back of my shoulder, that's where the entrance wound, the gunshot entrance went in.
Ma'am, forgive me for asking you to speak up just a little bit more. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. That's where I got. That was the entry, where I got shot.
Did the bullet, as you understand it, go through your back and into your front?
Yes.
Okay. And can you look at the last one?
Last one is 4880, and it's one where I got shot in my thigh.
Do those exhibits, ma'am, do those fairly and accurately capture the injuries that you received at the theater that night?
No, they look a lot cleaned up to me, so, especially with my exit wound from the chest.
Did you see them before a lot worse than that?
Well, while I was in the hospital getting wound care quite a bit, yes, I did, and it looked a lot worse than when it was bandaged.
Besides that, are there any other photos that you're aware of that better represent the injuries that you sustained at the theater that night?
I don't think I have any, no.
Your Honor, I'm going to move for the admission of those 4 exhibits into evidence.
Is there any objection to P-TR-2041, 4852, 4880, and 4884.
No, sir.
All right, without objection, they're all admitted, and they may be published.
Your Honor, may I just stand here to read the numbers to Amber?
Yes.
Ma'am, would you please put up there 4852 for me? Is this you in the hospital?
Yes.
Can you get us, please, 2041? Now, what are we looking at here, ma'am? Can you tell us?
That is the exit wound from the gunshot.
Thank you. 4884, please. This isn't the best view of this, I imagine, but what is this showing us?
It's showing where the entrance was in the back of my shoulder.
4880, please. What's that right there?
Picture of where I got shot in my thigh.
Okay, thank you. So, after the surgery, were you told of another injury, specifically about your pregnancy?
Yeah.
Tell us.
I was told that I had miscarried during my surgery, so that I had lost.
Were you told, and again, this is Thursday night, Friday morning that this thing happens, were you told on Sunday, finally, something about your daughter?
Yes, I was.
What were you told?
I was told that she didn't make it, that she had passed away.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the permanence of some of the injuries that you suffered, okay?
Okay.
First off, you told us that a bullet had ricocheted off of part of your shoulder and went into your spine. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Can you tell us where in your spine that was?
The bullet is lodged in my C7 of my spinal cord.
Did they remove it?
No, they said it would cause more damage if they were to remove it.
Is it in your body right now as you sit here?
Yes.
As a result of that bullet lodged in there at C7, did you lose the use of your arms and your legs?
I did, yes.
Now, did you ultimately go to some place for rehabilitation?
Yes, eventually I went to Craig Hospital.
And can you just tell us the dates that you were at Craig Hospital?
I think I got there like August 20th.
Of 2012?
Of 2012. And I got out late December 2012.
2013 or 2012?
2012. I was there 4 months.
Okay. And then after that, what happened? Did you go home?
No, I couldn't go back to where I was staying because I was staying in my dad's basement and I wouldn't have been able to get down the stairs, so I stayed in a hotel until I found a place.
During the time that you were at Craig Rehab, were you able to regain some use of your arms?
I was, yes, I became very fortunate, yeah.
Do you remain paralyzed and unable to walk?
Yes.
Does that include depriving you of the ability to control bodily functions?
Yes.
Is that permanent?
Yes.
As a result of that bullet lodged at C7, do you have ongoing nerve pain?
Yes.
Where?
Throughout my legs.
There's something else I forgot to ask you about, and I'm sorry. as a result of one of the surgeries that you had from that exit wound that we looked at, did you have to have some part of your internal organs removed?
Yes, I had to have my upper left of my lobe, upper left lobe of my lung removed because it had the bullet had punctured that lobe of my lung.
As a result of having that lobe, that portion of the lobe of your lung removed, have you had to be on ongoing oxygen?
Yes, they didn't think that I would be able to get off of oxygen, but I'm still on it at night.
Have you been told that that's also going to be forever?
I get checked every year, but I'm not sure. It might be, yeah.
There's one other thing I want to ask you that's directly related to the permanence of that injury to your lungs. What are quad coughs?
Quad coughs are because I don't have the strength my lungs don't have the strength enough to cough, or clear my throat even, so I have to bend over and basically kind of give myself like the Heimlich maneuver to get anything out of my throat or my lungs.
You still do that today?
Yes.
We've talked about what took place in the theater. I want to show you just one more picture, okay?
Okay.
No. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Ma'am, I'm handing you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 4731. You recognize that?
Yes.
What's that a picture of?
That's a picture of Veronica.
How soon before her death was that taken?
Not long, because it was her kindergarten graduation.
Your Honor, I'd like permission under the limits the court has imposed to publish that picture.
Yes.
Ma'am. Is that Veronica?
Yes.
I don't have anything further. Thank you.
Mr. Bruckler, are you moving the admission of P-TR-1146?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Is there any objection, Ms. Brady?
No, sir.
All right, that's admitted. Ms. Brady, do you have any cross-examination for Ms. Mosher?
No, sir.
And the jury does not appear to have any questions. May Ms. Mosher be released from her subpoena?
Yes.
Is there any objection?
No, sir.
All right, Ms. Mosher, thank you. Call your next witness, please, Mr. Bruckler.
Your Honor, the people of the state of Colorado rest.
All right, members of the jury, it's 2:35. Today's a day when we were planning on stopping at 3:30, but you just heard that the prosecution has rested, so I think it makes sense to stop now. There are some things that the attorneys and I have to work on that we're required to do at this juncture in the proceedings outside your presence, and so we'll do that. As I mentioned before, we're going to take Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday off, and we'll be working during that time. And the work we do now hopefully will save us some time later on down the road. Since I'm about to release you for 5 days, including the weekend, I'm going to give you the advisements. We have 19 of you at this time, so that's 7 alternates. And so I want to make sure that I emphasize for you the importance of all these advisements. I know that you've heard me say it before, but I can't emphasize enough how careful you have to be to make sure that you comply with each and every one of these. Sometimes, even if you're being careful and really attempting to do your best to comply with all the advisements, inadvertently it can happen. And so the more careful you are, the better off I think you're going to be. I've mentioned before that, for example, there is media coverage of the trial, and that the best thing to do is just to avoid watching or listening to any news and reading any news if you can. So I'm going to go through these now. Number one, please remember that you may not talk about the case, any aspect of the case, with each other through any means. You're free to talk to each other about anything else. You just cannot say anything about the case or about the proceedings or about your service as a juror in this trial. Number two, please do not discuss the case with anyone else through any means. That includes your spouse or significant other. I know that's a difficult thing I'm asking of you, but it's something that you're required to do. You're required to abstain from talking to anyone else about the case, and you must tell other people to make sure that they refrain from talking to you about the case. So if it's someone who's a relative or a friend, just tell them in advance, don't say anything about the case. I can't talk to you about the case, can't hear anything about the case. All you can tell people is you're on a jury in Arapahoe County, and we're anticipating that the trial will last through no later than sometime in early September. That's at least the hope. That's what we're aiming for. Number three, you may not have any contact or communications with any jurors who have been dismissed. I've mentioned that there was a juror here yesterday and today watching the proceedings, and she's a member of the public. She's welcome to do that, but you cannot have any contact with her, and she understands that she cannot have any contact with you. Next, please do not talk with any witnesses, parties, or attorneys about anything, whether related to the case or not. To make sure that witnesses, parties, and attorneys do not talk to you, it is imperative that you wear your juror badge whenever you're on the courthouse grounds, and that it is visible to everyone around you. Your juror badge will reduce the risk that people will talk to you, will talk about the case around you. So if you hear anyone talking about the case, please remove yourself from that location immediately. If despite your best efforts, you nevertheless hear something about the case, regardless of who's saying it, whether it's a member of the public, another juror, an attorney, a witness, anyone, then please let my staff know that you need to talk to me. All you have to do is tell them that you want to talk to me. Don't tell them what it's about. And then once I hear that you need to talk to me, I'll bring you in alone and we'll chat. Next, please do not talk to any members of the media about anything. Please remember that I have issued some orders that relate to the media. And so for that reason, it's important that they know if you're a juror. That's another reason to have your juror badge on at all times, to allow the members of the media to comply with all my orders. You must not read, view, or listen to any news or media reports that may refer in any way to the case. As I mentioned before, there is media coverage of the trial. Sometimes there is news coverage about things that you may have witnessed here in the proceedings, but there are other times when there may be news coverage of discussions that the lawyers and I are having. This is still a public proceeding, and so there may be reports about things that you are not allowed to hear and things that we're discussing outside your presence. But regardless of what it is, whether it's something that you were here for or something that you were not here for, you're not allowed to read or hear or view anything from any media report about the case. And so you have to be particularly careful with respect to this advisement so that you avoid any issues. Again, I mentioned before, we started off with 12 alternates. Now at this point we have 7. So please be very careful. Next, you cannot visit any locations mentioned in the case or conduct your own investigation outside the courtroom. That includes looking terms up in a dictionary, on the internet, looking up treatises, perhaps looking up medical terms, legal terms, looking up or consulting religious books or scientific books or technical books or computer books. You just can't refer to any source outside the courtroom. We need to make sure that you're not getting information outside the courtroom that you're going to use to make any decisions in this case. You cannot visit any locations mentioned in the case. I mentioned that before, so now you heard it twice. Next, all your verdicts in this trial have to be based only on the evidence presented in the courtroom and the instructions of law that I give you. Again, I know that I've phrased this particular advisement in different ways, and to the extent that I've said before that you must make all your decisions in this case based on the evidence, based only on the evidence and information presented in the courtroom, I'm referring to the evidence presented in the courtroom, and then, of course, the instructions of law that I give you. You cannot start forming any opinions about the case until I tell you that you can start deliberating. You have to keep an open mind throughout the trial. You cannot internally start thinking about any decisions that you may have to make in this case. Only when I tell you that it's okay for you to start deliberating may you do that. Neither sympathy for nor prejudice against the prosecution or the defendant may affect any of your decisions in this case. And please remember that the attorneys have a job to do that requires sometimes to make objections or to seek bench conferences. Don't hold it against them when they do that. Similarly, please keep in mind that I'm neutral in these proceedings. I'm not for one side or for the other. I'm just doing my best to apply the rules of evidence and other applicable rules of law. Please don't take an attitude of nobody's going to find out if I just do this one thing, or it's not a big deal if I just tell my husband or my wife about this because he or she's not going to tell anyone and nobody will find out. We rely on you, we trust you to follow each and every one of these advisements, not because someone's watching over you or because you think you're going to get caught, but because you have taken an oath to follow all my advisements. And you have said to me that you will do these things. And so do them for that reason. Don't take an attitude of it's not a big deal if we just violate something one time or who's going to find out, because those are the kinds of attitudes that will get you in trouble in terms of creating issues for us here, all right? Okay, with that then, please get some rest over the next 5 days. Let's have you back here on Thursday of next week. So we'll take Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. The lawyers and I will be working, but then we'll have you back here on Thursday morning at the usual time, okay? All right, thank you, folks. Have a great weekend, great Father's Day weekend, and then great 3 days after that. Thank you.